1935. A name that ruled the world for 2,500 years suddenly disappears. Not because of conquest, not because of revolution, just a memo. Foreign governments receive a request from Tehran. Stop using Persia. Start using Iran. Effective immediately. The world complies. An empire that survived Alexander the Great, the Mongols, even the Ottomans, disappears from maps in a single year. Not the country, just the name. The official explanation, modernization. Indigenous identity, correcting a Western error, clean, simple, reasonable. Except the timing raises questions. Those questions lead to a place nobody wants to talk about. This is how Persia became Iran, and why the timing was anything but coincidence. Persia. The name carried weight for millennia. Cyrus the Great built an empire from India to Greece, freed the Jews from Babylon, created the first declaration of human rights carved in stone. Darius built the world's first postal system, roads across continents. Xerxes invaded Greece with 500,000 men. This wasn't a small kingdom, this was Persia. When Greeks wrote history, they wrote about Persia, Herodotus, Plutarch, Xenophon. When Rome built its empire, it fought Persia for 700 years. The only rival Rome never fully conquered. When Islamic caliphates rose, they absorbed Persian culture, language, and administration. Baghdad's golden age was Persian-built. The name survived every conquest. Alexander took the empire. The name remained. Arabs brought Islam. The name remained. Mongols burned cities to ash. The name still survived. Persians themselves used multiple names domestically. Iran, among them. But to the outside world, for 2,500 years, it was Persia. Until 1935. Reza Shah Pahlavi, former military commander, seized power in a coup in 1921, crowned himself Shah in 1925. Ambitious, authoritarian, obsessed with transforming his country into a modern power, he built railways, forced Western dress codes, centralized the government, restricted tribal authorities. Iran was changing rapidly under his rule. In 1935, he makes another change. He sends a circular to foreign embassies. The request is simple. Stop calling the country Persia. Use Iran instead. His reasoning? Iran is what Iranians have always called their country. Persia is a Greek-imposed foreign term. The name change is about reclaiming indigenous identity, modernizing the country's image. That's the official story. And on the surface, it makes sense. Iranians did use Iran domestically for centuries. A legitimate, ancient, indigenous name. But here's where the timing becomes interesting. September 1935. Germany passes the Nuremberg Laws, the cornerstone of Nazi racial policy, the codification of Aryan supremacy. The same year, a country officially changes its name to emphasize its Aryan heritage. Coincidence? Maybe. But the context makes you wonder. 1935, Nazi Germany is at the peak of its Aryan obsession. Hitler's propaganda machine is everywhere. Race, blood, ancestry. The word Aryan dominates German political discourse. Tehran notices. Reza Shah had been building ties with Germany for years. German engineers were constructing the Trans-Iranian Railway, the project that would connect the Persian Gulf to the Caspian Sea. Junkers aircraft filled Iranian airfields. German advisors were embedded in the Iranian military, reorganizing divisions. Training officers. German companies were everywhere. Railways, factories, military contracts. By 1935, Germany was Iran's largest trading partner. Why Germany? Because Britain and Russia had spent decades carving up Iranian territory and influence. The Anglo-Russian Agreement of 1907 split Iran into British and Russian spheres without asking Tehran. Reza Shah wanted a powerful ally who wasn't an imperial neighbor. Germany fit perfectly, strong, modernizing. No territorial claims on Iran. By 1935, that relationship was deepening. Reza Shah admired what he saw in Germany. Order, discipline, rapid modernization, nationalist pride. He saw Hitler's rise and thought that's what a strong state looks like. Now, here's the part that makes historians pause. The word comes from Old Persian, Aryanam, land of the noble ones, land of the Aryans. Iran doesn't just mean Iran. It literally means land of the Aryans. The ancient Persians called themselves Aryans long before Germanic tribes existed. This is historical fact, linguistic fact. But in 1935, with Nazi Germany making Aryan the centerpiece of its ideology, that linguistic fact takes on new meaning. Reza Shah issues the decree. Foreign governments must use Iran. He frames it as correcting a historical error, reclaiming indigenous terminology. But the subtext is visible. Iran, Aryan, ancient heritage, racial pride, the same themes dominating Berlin in 1935. Did Nazi racial theory influence Reza Shah's decision? No historian can prove it. But the circumstantial evidence is thick. German advisors in Tehran, warm diplomatic relations, shared emphasis on Aryan heritage. The exact same year as the Nuremberg laws? One more detail. In the years after the name change, Reza Shah's policies shift. Jewish businesses face new restrictions, not because of Persian tradition, because it aligns with Germany's example. Iranian newspapers start publishing articles praising German racial policies, again aligned with Berlin. By 1939, the pattern is undeniable. Reza Shah isn't just modernizing, he's aligning. Then World War II starts. Iran declares neutrality. But neutrality is impossible when you've spent years courting both sides. Germany wants Iran as an ally. Britain and the Soviet Union need Iran's oil and geography to supply the war effort. By 1941, the Allies have had enough. British and Soviet forces invade. No resistance. The Iranian military collapses in days. They force Reza Shah to abdicate. Why? Officially, to secure supply routes. Unofficially, because his German sympathies made him a liability. Reza Shah goes into exile, dies in South Africa in 1944. The man who changed Persia's name ends his life powerless and disgraced. His son, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, takes the throne. Young, weak, controlled by foreign powers for decades. But here's what's strange. After everything, the invasion, the disgrace, the Allied occupation, the name stays. Iran remains Iran, even though the reason for the change, if it was what the timing suggests, had become toxic. Even though Reza Shah's German alignment had led to his downfall, why didn't the Allies change it back? Because by 1941, the paperwork was done. Embassies had updated their records. Maps had been redrawn. Treaties used Iran. Changing it back would require admitting what the timing implied. That a name change sold as indigenous pride might have been influenced by Nazi racial politics. Nobody wanted that conversation. Not the Allies, who had ignored Reza Shah's German sympathies for years. Not the new Shah, who didn't want to remind everyone his father had been a Nazi sympathizer. Not Iranian nationalists, who preferred the modernization narrative. So the official story stuck. Modernization, indigenous identity, correcting Western errors. And the timing, the Aryan connection, the German alignment, those questions got buried, not because they were answered, because they were inconvenient. Today, when you say Iran, you're using a name formalized in 1935. The name itself is ancient, legitimate, used by Persians for millennia. But the decision to force it on the world in that specific year, same year as the Nuremberg laws, same year Nazi Germany made Aryan a global obsession, same year Reza Shah was deepening ties with Berlin, same year German advisors filled Tehran. Historians debate whether Nazi influence was direct or indirect, whether it was cause or correlation, whether Reza Shah was signaling alignment or just reclaiming heritage. But they agree on one thing: the timing was not random. And the silence around it is not accidental. Because the truth is messy, it's easier to say modernization than to say a Shah with German sympathies changed the country's name to emphasize Aryan heritage. The same year Germany passed the Nuremberg laws, and we kept it because changing it back would be too embarrassing. That's complicated. That requires acknowledging uncomfortable overlap between nationalism and Nazi ideology. That requires asking whether indigenous pride can be co-opted by racial politics. So the simple story persists. Reza Shah modernized Iran, reclaimed indigenous identity, corrected historical errors, clean, progressive, apolitical. But the calendar doesn't lie. 1935, September, Nuremberg laws. 1935, Persia becomes Iran. Not proof of causation, but too close to ignore. Persia didn't fall. It was renamed by a ruler who admired Germany, in a year when Germany made Aryan the defining word of its politics. And the name stayed, long after the ruler fell, long after the alignment became disgrace, because the question of why it changed was less important than the fact that it did, and asking why would mean confronting what the timing suggests. So we don't ask. We just say, Iran, and move on. But now you know, not what happened. What might have happened, what the timing suggests, what the silence protects. The name is ancient. The decision to force it in 1935 is not. The reason that decision happened when it did, nobody wants to answer that question. Because the answer is, it wasn't coincidence, it was alignment. A decision made the same year the Nuremberg laws were written.